Hello and welcome back to On the Workbench. Today we're taking a look at another new for 2022 Kobalt 24 volt max tool edition that's new for 2022. And so what we got here is the cordless caulk gun. Now this is probably my personally most anticipated tool of the year. That and the job site radio being my other most anticipated tool of 2022. And so this is what we get. This is a tool only packaging. The claims on the front, I don't know how to test those. Max push force, max control, max convenience, max runtime. Let's look at the back of the box. On the back of the box, up to 750 pounds of pushing force, variable speed control trigger, anti-drip technology, we'll give that a test later, and max runtime of more than 200 caulk tubes per charge. Read the fine print. And that's saying on a 2 amp hour battery. Okay, that's fantastic. And this is made in China. And the other interesting thing on the back of the box here, looking at the date code, this was made September of 2021. And this is now January of 2022 when this is finally out. And the other interesting thing that's in the works now is Lowe'sPartsPlus.com as a new portal for availability of parts for Kobalt and other Lowe's branded tools. So now let's see what we get in the box. Oh, just a quick look at the tool grid on top. Nothing new. If you want to see the most up-to-date version of this, check out my video on the job site radio, and you can see the latest version of that tool grid. So here's what we get. We get our manual. We get our tool. We've got a little card here. This is interesting here. This looks like something they added. Clearly, they want to catch your attention with. This says, caution, speed setting 6 is designed for high volume dispensing using a large tip opening. If used with a small tip opening, damage may occur to the caulk cartridge. In other words, it may burst the caulk cylinder. So be careful with setting 6. Clearly a extra addition they want you to pay note to by adding that card. Kind of unusual to see a bonus card added like that. So now looking at the tool, what we've got here, we'll go ahead and pull off the sleeve, but it looks like to do that, we're going to have to unscrew the cartridge holder. On the back side of here, we do have a piercing needle that's already scored on one side to give it a semi-sharp end to be able to pierce through the end of a caulking tube. Now this certainly looks like something that might be disposable. If you go through enough caulk cylinders, it's not too crazy in my mind that this would break or just get so covered in crud that it would be time to replace this. So this unscrews from the tool, and really all this tool really is nothing but a pushing tool. And then we've got our trigger. There's a little trigger lock here to lock it. And there's the variable speed trigger. And then we have a retraction button. So if I push that retraction button, it is a manual retraction. And then looking at the back of the tool, here are our 6 speed settings. Remember, speed setting 6 is for ultra high volume with a large tip opening. And it looks like this rod could be replaced, hypothetically, by removing the Torx screw here at the end. There's also a flathead on it too. And then be able to pull this rod out completely to be able to pull it out. So something here, just looking at the tool, because of the motor in here, it's going to have to be vented to be able to dissipate heat. Caulk is inherently messy, sticky, and gummy. So one of the things you have to be very careful of is so you don't get this fan back here gummed up on the motor so it can vent properly. You don't get your sticky hands all over it. Also of interest on here, we do see a spot here for a belt clip. However, no belt clip was included in the package. I'm a little disappointed by that, although I suppose you could use this hook here as a belt hook, if you will. But it would have been nice to see a belt clip included with this. I'm not sure why a belt clip was left out of the packaging. A little disappointed by that little detail there. So now in my mind, one of the reasons why I'm most excited about this is because caulking, quite honestly, is a task that I just hate. So when I say to be careful with the tool, like here's the caulk gun that I currently have right now. This is just an unfiltered mess. It works sort of, but I always, after I get done caulking anything, I always end up with, I don't know, pain in my forearms. I just feel the cramps. You know, after you try to get halfway around a wall or around whatever I'm trying to caulk, or a driveway joint or something, it just leaves me just frustrated and wanting a better way to do it. And I know there's better manual tools than this one here, but these have usually been cheap and disposable to me. They get messed up and I pitch it. There are still going to be some tasks that I might expect that I want a gun I could just go ahead and throw away like this after I'm done. Other times, maybe I can get away with this. And I'm glad to see that this end here is replaceable, assuming that we can actually get the replacement parts, obviously. Which also might mean, there also might be the potential that some of the larger caulk tube sizes might be supported in the future with an in-place upgrade of a new rod and a new tube holder here. Now, don't tell my wife, but I just grabbed her kitchen scale. Again, I really should buy her a new one for Christmas one of these days. And so I've got a 2 amp hour battery, which is what the package said this was rated for and all the specs were based on. And we're going to turn on the scale here and zero it out. And quite frankly, since you're going to be holding this with the tube of caulk, I'm 100% sure nobody wants to hold the caulk tool and the big old 6 amp hour battery. So we'll go ahead and weigh this with the 2 amp hour battery attached. So we're at 0 ounces there. And with no caulk tube on, we are at 69.66 ounces, 1,975 grams, or 4.354 pounds with no tube of caulk. If I add a tube of caulk here on here, this puts us up to 5.39 pounds. 85.24 ounces, or 2,417 grams. So now to be able to show you how this operates with no tube of caulk, and to make it a little bit visually easier for you to see here, I'm going to advance the speed here to speed setting 3, and I'm going to start by unlocking the tool by pushing the little slider here to the left. Then I'm going to pull the trigger, and then watch what happens. So as I held the trigger back, it was slowly pushing the rod forward, but then when I let go of the trigger, it pulled the rod back just a hair. That's the anti-drip feature in action that a tube of caulk will hopefully be able to have a little bit of suction there when it pushes back to be able to keep your tube from dripping. And so that's what's going on there when you see that tube there come back. That's not actually a retract mechanism. Okay, so there we go. So that's setting 3. I think there's going to be some preference here of figuring out, of starting at the bottom at speed setting 1 and working your way up for what you're doing to figure out how it's going to flow with your specific tube of caulk. So you might need to be prepared to waste a tube or part of a tube on getting the settings right for this tool. We'll go to setting 5 and we'll try the variable speed setting here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there were about 6 distinctly noticeable settings on that variable speed trigger. Now, just to go all the way up to 6, the setting that we were warned about on that tag, and I'm just going to go ahead and back this out here since we're running out of rod room. And so that was 6. So we got quite a wide range of options there for how fast to set the tool. One other quick test here. I've got the ultimate output battery on here. Let's just double check that this works. Indeed it does. The original grinder had some issues with that battery, so just thought we'd double check that with this tool. All right, as you can see, I got some craft paper down here. We're gonna do a little test here. To make this a little extra fun, I've got an old tube of DAP. That's from 2019 that I've had in storage, so this might be dried out a little bit, but it should be a good test of that max push force to see how it's working. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut myself a tip. Make sure I get an angle there. A little steeper angle would have been preferred, but that should work. And then I'm going to use the piercing tool on the back side of here. Let's go ahead and give this a pierce. You can see it definitely got in there. And then just because I'm a bit of a neat freak, I'm going to go ahead and wipe that off with a shop towel there to try to keep that clean. We'll fold that back, put in our tube. Then I'm just going to manually advance the rod by pressing the release button here, which connects it up there. I'm going to dial this back down to setting 1. And now let's take it for a spin and see how well this does. As you can see, this caulk is supposed to be white and it's coming out clear. That's why I'm wasting this out here, because I know this is a bad tube of caulk. And then when I do that, I can rotate this around so I can try to get the right angle on my work surface. So if, say, you're coming in and out of a corner in a room, there we go. Now you can see the white starting to come. So you can see there, it's not dripping at all. There's just a little bit when that pulled back on the end. That anti-drip feature seems to be working quite well. Now let's turn this up to speed setting 3 and see how that compares. That was 3. Now we're going to go all the way up to 5. Which puts out a whole lot of caulk a lot quicker than what you would need. I'm going to try another at 5. So there you go. You can see 5. Did I show you 2? I don't think I showed 2 yet. All right, so here we're going to go with 2. And now, just because I'm feeling crazy, I've got this now set to setting 6, and we'll see what happens. Interesting. And so it looks like it stopped automatically, and the tube is now empty of caulk. So now we'll back this up here. You can see that is all the way down there. So that used up this entire tube here at the different settings here for how that worked. So hopefully this gives you an idea of the different settings. You know, just from playing with it here on the workbench, it's clear it's going to take a little bit of practice to be able to get your arm speed as you're moving the tool along the baseboard or along whatever else you're caulking to be able to match the speed setting on the tool with the volume of caulk that's needed. That's going to be specific to your application, your needs, and how fast you're able to work. My initial response here is that it looks like I would start with setting 1 and then slowly work your way up if you discover that that's not actually, or I'm sorry, if you discover that that's too slow for you. That being said, I feel like this is relatively comfortable. I like it. You can see how clean and easy it was to work with. And by not having to keep squeezing and squeezing and squeezing back and forth, my arms feel fine. Yeah, it's a little actually heavier than breaking out the manual tool here, but I think it's going to be an investment well worth it, just in saving my arm and putting down a uniform bead of caulk. So if you get any other thoughts or comments, put down below. We'd love to hear about it. If you like videos like this, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Click the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I've got a whole playlist of other Kobalt brushless tool reviews. Go ahead and check that out. This will be in that playlist. So the next video in there might autoplay after this one. Stick around for that. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day. Bye.